And we are live. Yay! The thing, I clicked, we were going to be live like exactly on time, but I screwed that up. So, yeah. Hello and welcome to our AMA live stream. So for those who don't know or are coming from another spot, this was initially posted up on amafeed.com. There was a link and there was like a spot where you could enter a bunch of questions. We had a whole bunch of responses, I believe something like 30, 31 or something like that. So we had a whole bunch of questions that were asked. So there is a text version of our answers on the site itself. There'll be a link to that in the description when we're finished. I think there's actually a link to it in the description now, actually. Yes, there is. There is a link over on AMA Feed in the description. You can go there and you can ask questions if you want. You can do it through the chat on the side of the window. I will check periodically. Let me just bring that up. Okay, so there is a chat. There is someone who chatted, but it's just about the wait. But yes, we're live. Assuming that is for the right chat. There we go. Okay, so we'll get started. So cool. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them there or in the chat. Chat's probably better just because I'll see it right away. I will be keeping an eye on AMA Feed throughout the live broadcast. So, with me right now, Michael is able to make it. Hey. All right, shall we get started?
I suppose.
You suppose. Don't sound too enthusiastic. All right, so we'll start with the first question here. What was the most difficult scene to shoot and why? Well, that really depends on that really depends on your definition of difficult, I suppose.
I suppose it does. That's going to mean different things to people in front of the camera and behind the camera. I can't speak as to what would have literally been difficult to shoot, like from a camera perspective. But there was a scene, for me at least, where we were in a hotel room and we're shooting this kind of, it looks like an awesome shot, but there's this scene where we're trying to do this complicated kind of shot that involved like opening a door and timing correctly. It's the very beginning of our trailer, both versions of our trailer. And I liked shooting that a lot, but as Rain can probably attest to, I was on a very, very tight schedule that day. Yep. So trying to accomplish something difficult with the under pressure can lead to some interesting results. And it was also like, it was a very nice hotel, but there was like, hotels are kind of meant to relax in, and basically it was just like, when you're not there to relax, when you're there to work, a hotel room basically just becomes a room with too many people and too much equipment on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, that was a really rough experience in that. And that was like, I booked the bigger room. I was initially gonna get the standard room, and then we got that one. Like, I'll get the deluxe. It's only like $20-$30 more, not a big deal. And I'm so glad I got the deluxe because the standard is smaller than that, and I cannot imagine doing that scene and working in a smaller room, because like we had pretty much skeleton crew that day,
right? And
even then it was so packed.
Right. And
I kind of regret not getting a second room, because that was the other thought too. Is like, maybe I should get a second room. Nah, the deluxe will have plenty. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not so much. And then plus we had like food ordered. Although I did like the way that we did that, where we rotated, and so like some of you went down to the restaurant, and then we ended up like ordering food and bringing stuff back up to the room.
Yeah.
Everyone was hesitant. I'm like, yeah, we'll let food be on set this one time. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be one of the more difficult ones. For me, I think the Sunday was probably the roughest day, and like the most difficult scene to shoot was probably the kitchen one, just because we were under so much pressure.
Right.
And we had to get to other stuff throughout the day.
Yeah.
And we had a very, very, very limited window, to a point where we had to cut a few scenes. Just because it was such a small window, and that kitchen scene, so many different angles to get just with 3 people talking. Like we had to cut down some of the angles that we were getting, so we weren't able to get all the shots that I wanted to get. But we got the shots that we needed, which was the important thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the advantage too of like, I found, it's why I like editing my own work, because then I know exactly what we need while we're on set. So if we need to make hard decisions, I know what to cut, and I can recut it in my head quickly to make sure that it looks good in my head. And then when I go to do the trailer, it still looks good. So I'm gonna have to go with the kitchen scene for mine.
Okay, cool.
All right, you want to read the next one?
Sure. Besides self-harm, LGBTQ, and bonds, does your web series tackle any current issues like the shooting in Florida?
So I'm going to outright say the same thing that I said on the AMA feed.
Yeah.
No. It doesn't tackle the issues themselves. So you'll never see an issue like a shooting in Florida or something, a current event that will be in the show. Right. What you will see is the core issue at hand. So like with the shooting, a lot of it had to do with like hatred. So you'll see that issue being addressed in the show, but you won't see like, something like outright like a shooting being addressed.
Yeah. That's something very similar to what I was going to say. We don't always know when these episodes are going to happen, so we don't always have the luxury of commenting, I guess, on topical events. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the conversations that these things spark are definitely addressed in the show.
All right. How would you describe the benefits of a web series to a novice? Let me start with this one.
It's a freer form of television that you can basically watch whenever you want. Like storytelling wise, it's a huge boon. It's a huge benefit. You can tell stories that are as long or as short as you like. You don't really have to adhere to any practical guidelines or standards that way. Yeah.
Okay. No, I agree. It's I mean, like if you're just starting out too, it's fantastic because things can be as long as they need to, short as they need to. Quality isn't. Quality is still important. It's all like visual quality is always good, but the most important part, especially with a web series, is story.
Yeah. Story
is your absolute. It is the most important part. If your series can't look good, if you don't have access to the same like equipment and resources that other people have, that's fine. You can rewrite your story to sort of tailor into that. So like if your story needs to be told to webcam, you have that option to play with. You have other things to play with that people who are using traditional media don't necessarily have access to. If you want to include a social media component to your web series, you can do that. So it's there. You have more freedom.
Right.
Cool. All right. So,
who writes the scripts? Do you know how the story or stories will end, or do they take their own turn once you begin writing?
I'll start.
Sure. Yeah.
So, with this one, both of us write it. So you have the two writers here. Yeah. So both Michael and I write the scripts. So how our process is that we sit down and we break out each. We have a general arc for the season. Mm-hmm. The arcs have already sort of been predetermined. Right. We can make any changes that we need to make sort of in the very beginning. And then we sit down and we break all the episodes. We know each season has 10 episodes. And we have a general idea on the beats and where we start and where we end. Yeah. So we're able to sit down and we're able to sort of break out all the beats per episode together. And then we can sort of have our outline of our episodes, and then we go off. We split the episodes and write them separately. Yeah. And then come back and edit.
Yeah. Like I sort of alluded to in my text version of this answer, Rain had pretty much devised the framework for the story before she even knew who I was. But we've just been kind of wending the journey along the way together.
For sure. And it's fun, too, because you get to explore characters. And, there are characters who I want to come back, who I didn't necessarily think I wanted to come back before. And just based on that, Adam Jenner's character, Joseph, I want to see him come back in season 2. Mm-hmm. So it will be, without giving it away,
Right.
Yeah, I like the character. So it's just, some characters stick around longer than you necessarily think that you want them to, just because of who plays them.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Are the characters all based on real life people you know? I think this is a pretty easy one for you to answer.
Yeah, not people that I know, but
Yes. So I find like a lot of characters from at least my writing start off sort of with a framework based on like other people that I know.
Right.
So the main 4 characters are based on 4 people who currently are or were in my life.
Right.
And it started there, and then like as I developed their characters, they took on a life of their own and traits, and they make decisions that the people that they're based on would never make. At the same time, they also face some of the same situations, so there are some similarities in the way that they handle it are similar in some ways.
Yeah.
But most of it is just at this point they're their own characters now, and it's hard to think of, especially since they've been cast. All the characters who are based on people have been cast, and so it's hard to think of. It's hard to think of them as those people anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Cool. How do you plan to market the series? Have you tried crowdfunding sites?
So we did a Kickstarter last year,
Yeah.
and we raised some money, and it helped with our pilot, or not our pilot, rather our trailer.
Yeah.
So it definitely played a role in helping with that. We've again mainly been using word of mouth.
Yeah.
That's sort of been the really big one. Sharing our links through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever means we can kind of come up with. Recently, it's been Stumble Upon.
Yeah.
And I've just now started using the Tumblr that we have today. So that, so again, it's like it's all about, just spreading that word organically.
Yeah.
I've tried using Facebook marketing in the past with the whole like ads thing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten a lot in the way of legit results.
I see.
That actually matter. So I've been sort of avoiding, as tempting as it is to spend money and get like post boosts, I'm not confident enough in their algorithm that it would work.
Right.
In the way that we need it to, at least.
Right.
You?
So yeah, like we touched on, we've tried doing the crowdfunding thing. The reason we're doing this live stream right now, I assume, is we're in the midst of the March Madness that the IPF Independent Production Fund hosts. We've got a trailer up online. It's probably visible to you, hopefully. And yeah, we're just trying to spread the word about this show any way we can.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Does your web series feature its own original
Thank you.
soundtrack? Yeah.
So not yet. I was talking with a friend, and
Yeah.
he's interested in working with me to maybe score some of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at maybe getting some original music that way.
Right.
So that would be neat. Again, I'd love to put together a Scars soundtrack, but that's just currently not going to happen. What there is, though, is a Scars writing playlist that I write to, and there's a link to that on the blog thing. There's a link to it on the Facebook page, and I'll be putting a link to it in the description just so more people can follow. It's always changing based on sort of what I'm currently writing.
Yeah. I feel like, because I'll be honest, most people who know me know this. I don't know a whole lot about music. I've never really been all that into the music industry. But I do watch a lot of TV and movies, so I always find it really, really cool when like a song is featured in something, and then I can go look up that artist. And so yeah, an original soundtrack would be really cool. And then I feel like it's just it's good for both parties when a song is featured in a thing.
Yeah, and like episode 9, at
Yeah.
the end of that one, there's a song that's featured. There's another song that's featured, in a couple of other episodes. It's just based on our licenses. Or it's just based on like what we're able to get and how much it's going to end up costing.
Yeah.
And apparently we're going to have Sean joining us in a few minutes,
Oh, great.
but not right now. He said he's going to try, so
Cool.
we'll see what happens. All right, so what inspired you to produce such an interesting story? Well, thank you for the kind words of using the word interesting, even though I think it's kind of one of those pre-made. I was looking, and apparently like AMA Feed has some pre-made question things,
Oh, okay.
and they look pretty human. So, so
Thank you,
it's-
sentient robot.
So if that was your wording, thank you. If that wasn't, thank you AMA Feed for making such a nice question.
Yeah.
But I hope people find it interesting.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what my response was to that because I wrote that a few days ago. And I have the memory of like a goldfish.
Right. Scars is a very like human story. So honestly, I would just chalk that up to life. Life inspired me.
It's a story that's inspired by pain.
Yeah.
It's something that would just like, I remember what my answer was now. It was, it's the show that like when I'm in a really bad place, something that I would want to see.
Yeah.
Something that would just sort of be that connection.
Right.
And I don't know, in a way, just, I find that like, so there's some books that I've read too where just like you feel a connection with certain characters.
Oh yeah.
There was a book recently, The Buddha and the Borderline, where just like I felt this strong connection. It was to something someone I had never even met, and it was just written that well.
Yeah.
And so I mean, just like having that kind of thing, it helps. It helps not feel so alone. So again, it's just that inspiration, sort of creating something that maybe would help other people not feel so alone.
Right. Including
myself. So the show that I would need to see, essentially.
Yeah.
So selfishness inspired me to write this show.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead.
How many people were involved in your web series?
20. 20 people were involved in the trailer. And a whole lot more.
Okay.
Did you have a guess on the number? What was your guess before?
I didn't think it was quite as many, but I guess I would have thought it was around 10 to 12. Okay.
No. It just felt like that because we didn't have more than like 10 to 12 people on set each day.
Yeah, I guess that's why.
But in total, and then there was like days. No, you were there for our big days. You just weren't necessarily around as much because you were off doing other things.
Right.
Not being totally dedicated to us. And, having to leave early, show up late.
Yeah.
And then we all harass you.
Yep. So that leads directly into the next question. What were some challenges you faced producing this? Mostly the actor who plays Kyle and his schedule. That was very frustrating for most people.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit of a deadbeat, so,
yeah.
So, I mean, we let him off, like, because he has to go off and make a living somehow, I guess, and do stuff. So, I mean, I guess it beats, I don't know. I don't have a way to finish that joke.
Right.
I ran out of steam partway through, and now it's just like an insult.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, scheduling was definitely a really, really big one.
Yeah.
And also money.
Yeah.
Money was also a really big one, especially just because the cost kept going up and up and up.
Yes.
The more that we sort of went through it. And then at the very end, I'm like, okay, I'll be fine now. And then everyone submitted their gas bills, and I'm like, nope. So, yeah, it's, again, money was probably the biggest challenge. Right. Scheduling being the next one. Aside from that, though, it went pretty smoothly. So it's not that there was...
Yeah.
I mean, mainly it was that. And our first day was challenging, too.
Right.
Getting to the point where we were rolling for that first shot.
Yeah.
But that's the case on, like, pretty much any project is...
I agree.
The first day and just getting up to that first shot once you start rolling.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. Almost everything I've ever worked on has followed suit. Like, you spend a lot of time just getting ready on the first day. And then once you're kind of in the swing of things, day 2, 3, 4, et cetera, go a lot smoother. Mostly.
For you?
Mostly, yeah, we kind of touched on already. I'm just kind of like, when I have a lot going on, I am sort of like an anxious wreck. I mean, I'm always grateful to be working on multiple projects at once, but I spent most of that week thinking, anytime I had like a second to myself between scenes or whatever, I would be thinking like, okay, now I got to do this, now I got to go there, and I got to write this person back, and now I got to... So like there was just so much happening that week that, I didn't sleep or eat for a week.
I know that feeling so well.
Yeah.
It was so busy that week.
Yeah. Okay, where were we? Next.
How did you get enough money to fund this project?
Right.
Well, we're still working on funding the project itself.
Yes.
Patreon. Anyways, I don't know where that came from. So, again, the Kickstarter really helped. It definitely made a difference.
Right.
But again, most of it, my bank account. Incoming checks as they came in from work. It was literally a matter of like, okay, how long can I defer this payment for before I have to go make it? Can it wait until this check comes in? Because I'm not very good at savings, and I didn't really have anything to pull from that. So again, it was just, yeah. So essentially, my bank account and Kickstarter, and we're going to be doing an Indiegogo next month to try to raise money for the next episode that we're going to do, and so we'll see what happens on that. We have an interesting strategy that we're not discussing on it.
If anyone listening to this has any ideas of avenues we could pursue,
yes,
that'd be much appreciated as well.
We would love that.
Yep.
All right. So, anything else to add to that? Have you received any backlash from those who are against the LGBTQ community?
I don't know. I haven't really seen anything like that as we've been promoting the show. Have you?
Nope. It's all been pretty positive responses.
Yeah.
So the backlash that I am expecting to get, though, is, and I touched on this in my answer to my text answer, is so I didn't cast a trans actor to play a trans character.
Right.
And that seems to be a pretty big thing in the transgender community or in the LGBT community in general, is casting, like, if you have a character that falls in LGBT, maybe you should have the actor actually, like, be able to relate to that.
Right.
And we don't for the most part, especially with the trans thing. And I know people who get really, really upset about that. And then there are also responses usually, well, did you even look? So I'll say this right now. Posted the ad out in public, and if people saw it, people were encouraged to apply if they fit in that category.
Right.
And I got no one who did. Yeah. And even if they had, it goes to the person who can portray the character the best.
Right.
Not who happens to fit this particular bill.
I see.
So.
And I feel like the only person who really should have final say over this story is you. So if you chose to do that, I don't feel like criticism is valid, really.
No, I completely agree.
Like,
but it is something that I'm anticipating going to happen at some point.
Right.
Especially like if we get more eyes on us.
Yeah.
It's eventually going to happen because it happens to so many different projects that I've seen.
Yeah.
That do this kind of thing. It happened with Transparent.
Right. Yeah.
And, like the actor did a really good job, and like the person who played the character should have been the one who played the character.
Right.
So, and I can't see it being done any other way.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, again, no backlash yet. Anticipating backlash, and that's the backlash I'm anticipating receiving, and I don't care.
All right. Do you hope that your web series will be featured on streaming companies such as Netflix or Hulu?
That is always the hope.
I mean, that is absolutely the dream. We're making this ourselves largely, but we want people to watch it.
Yeah.
So finding someone to help us distribute it would be awesome.
Especially if they can help with financing.
Yeah.
But even if they can't, just having the distributor who's interested in putting it up, I mean, that can help also secure their financing.
Yeah.
Having that distributor goes a long way. So if
Right.
there's anyone from Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or anyone who's watching, any distributor, yeah, but no, we're definitely hoping that's the case. But again, we're not counting on that as our only way, so we're looking at sort of just trying to self-finance and self-distribute until such a time where we don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay, what are your personal stories with regards to the issues you mentioned? Has making the series helped and been therapeutic for the crew?
Because a lot of it is autobiographical or semi-autobiographical. Semi. Let's say semi.
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to kind of know when you watch the show, even when you watch certain parts of the trailer. I'll just say this, because it's not things in this show are not necessarily my story, but I feel like they're very relatable. like absolutely, like art and therapy and art as therapy. You know, they help open up a conversation, and I feel like anytime I'm watching this show or writing this show, I've experienced enough in my life that I can like bring something to the table for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I can
no,
learn things from the show itself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. And I think like that's and that's huge. I mean, it's great to have that.
Yeah.
And for me, it's sort of the same thing. I mean, I joke about it, but it's like this being my very, very expensive therapy session. That's why like there are certain episodes that I'm writing, and I guess it gets difficult.
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier today. Where like 109 was pretty difficult in some spots to write, and 110 is going to be even harder in some spots to write.
Yeah.
But like it creates, I don't know, like I'm really happy with the way 109 turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Despite how hard it was to write, and I'm going to be probably as happy with the way that 110 turns out, even though it's difficult to write.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that whole pain-inspiring art.
Yeah.
You had your quote earlier today. Was it, pain is temporary, film is forever?
Yeah, that's the one.
So makes it worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about that during the last live stream. Probably not. I think it wasn't until after that you mentioned that.
I used that in a different context. I was talking
Yeah.
more about like the process of making a film.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know what you meant.
Okay,
I know
yeah.
what you were using, but you can use
But
it.
it's
in another
it's
context.
absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
What do you plan on doing if the web series doesn't gain momentum?
I like your answer of becoming a cult hit.
Yeah, we'll become a cult hit.
But yeah, I mean, if it doesn't gain momentum, we just find some other strategy, some other angle to approach it from.
Mm-hmm.
Again, our audience is out there. It's just a matter of getting it in front of enough eyes to find that audience.
Yep.
But I strongly do believe that like now is a good time to tell this story, just given our social climate.
Yeah.
And the issues that we're dealing with and everything that's going on in the world. I do think that it's a perfect time to have these discussions. And the people out there who want to see this kind of thing, again, it's finding them.
Totally.
Okay, so what are you planning on doing?
How long?
So how long did it take to film, edit, etc. for your web series? Why do I always read the ones that I can answer?
Yeah.
So we started writing. So we'll talk about the trailer just because the web series is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a timeline for that yet.
Nope.
But for the trailer, we started working on the trailer, mid-January?
Yeah.
Or was it late January? No, it was mid-January.
Yeah.
Or was it early?
Maybe about a month before we went to camera, yeah. So probably probably about
mid-January?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we had quite a month to go. We had a little under a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started working on the trailer, mid-January, and we did blasted through writing and pre-production within a few weeks. So overall, the whole thing took about a month and a half.
Yeah.
So it took us about a month and a half to write the trailer, go through pre-production, get our locations and everything.
Yeah.
To shoot it, we shot it over a period of 4 days, and then we did editing for like 3 weeks, where it was just going through sound and everything like that.
To put that in perspective, if you watch it, it will just take you 2 minutes.
Yeah. Something that took us like a month and a half.
Yes. Please and thank you.
Please watch. Please watch it.
Yeah.
Just 2 minutes of your time. If you're really curious, it'll take you 4, just under 4.
Yeah. Will you be releasing any forms of merchandise for the general public, like T-shirts? If you're on our Patreon, I believe we've got some rewards lined up.
We do. And if you're on our Kickstarter, you have things as well.
Yeah.
We will be fulfilling those soon. We have a photo shoot thing that we're doing for the poster in early May, so that we can deliver all of our things by the end of May.
Right.
We have cups, we have mouse pads, we have shirts.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great.
Right.
We have a bunch of stuff, and once we have fulfilled all those rewards, we will open up a version of it to the public. And if you're interested in getting some Scars merchandise, Sean is there. 1 second, Sean. You might want to put your headphones on for this.
Okay.
Might need to plug it in. Hey, Sean, are you there? Can you hear us? Okay, 1 second. No, we are. All right. Hello, Sean.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Thank you for taking some time out to join us.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, what question did we leave off on?
Merchandise. I think we covered that.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we are through that, how long did it take? So, will your web series be one giant movie or a bunch of episodes? Sean joins and it's not even really a question that can be answered, but it's going to be.
What?
Hello?
Well, I have my thoughts on that, but I think you're certainly the source.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting. Web series is in general, right? I mean, I think there's something that I guess you could have a web series that's very episodic, that's very limited. Not limited, but to one episode. Like each episode is a self-contained entity, sort of like Star Trek: The Next Generation. But I definitely feel like this series certainly is an ongoing situation that continues to evolve through time, such that it could be seen as a long movie, but it'd be a long, long movie, right?
And it'd be one that's released in parts.
Yeah.
So at that point,
Sure.
just because we're not, I mean, if we are able to shoot it all at once, we could essentially release it as a movie, but it would break everyone's brains, I think.
Right.
You might re-edit it a little or about something.
If we're going to release it as a whole, all at once for each season, as a movie style kind of thing.
Yeah.
If we did, we won't. But if we did, I think it would. I think it's dark enough that it would break people's brains.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it would just be a really unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
So it's just a dosage type thing.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is why it would have to be episodic the way that it is now. Not only that, but we wouldn't release it all at once. It would be sort of on a week by week basis.
Right.
Mhm.
Just because this isn't really. I wouldn't call this a bingeable show.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. You certainly could if you wanted to wait till the end and then binge it, but it's not something I recommend.
Well, and each episode does have sort of an interior arc, right? That it ends at each episode ends sort of on a closure for the moment, or just does it feel like a random end?
No, it's not a random end. There's a logical conclusion to each episode,
Yeah.
but the next one does essentially pick up right where the last one left off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So okay, so it feels like this is a good end point, but then you kind of go to the next one and it's just so on. So I mean, you could cut it all together all at once as a full-blown movie kind of thing, and it would make sense just because of the way that each thing picks up.
Mhm.
But I mean, it feels pretty self-contained for each episode.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I found interesting, actually, and I know you haven't seen it, Rain, so I won't spoil, but Thor Ragnarok, I felt, took an interesting, and I think Marvel's taking this more and more, an interesting angle on the comic book movie, because it really did feel like a just a pile of individual stories. From scene to scene, it's completely different things happening, but they all tie into each other. So it could, on some level, be a web series in that sense that it has this happens and ends, and then they move on to something else, and then that happens, and then they move on to something else. And it's literally different planets, different adventures, and changing it up. So I think that's it could be a movie that's a accumulation of a ton of different little adventures.
That's really neat. Yeah, I mean, I kind of got that impression based on what I have seen of it, is that it's kind of this really different, weird kind of movie.
When comic books are like that too, right? Each comic book is a little story that feeds into an entirety.
Oh, for sure. Okay, your thoughts, Michael?
More or less covered. I know that you had a specific framework for exactly how the story was gonna play from the get-go, and I know that you always kind of wanted it to be episodic. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's going to be a bunch of episodes.
Yep.
1 second. Okay, so our next question. Go ahead and read it.
How many fans do you have that are excited for this? Now, I would say my answer to this is more every day.
I like your answer better than mine.
Because I like the actors, and a lot of the actors were assembled prior to this. So I was telling people about this project way before we ever went to camera. But now that we actually have something online, I feel like when people see this new Scars trailer, more and more people I get actually interested in it and actually specifically telling me what they like about the show.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. That's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, more every day is good. Sean?
Well, I just was going to make a wee little logistical practical note. Michael, when hitting the table, I think, is that hitting the table?
Yeah, it's hitting the table. I was just about to say that, and then you took your hands off
Okay,
it.
I'll stop doing that.
Yeah, please. The microphone picks up, like, everything.
I'm sorry.
One day
No
I'll
worries.
actually invest in, like, better audio equipment.
Okay.
You know.
I mean, the passion comes through, you know, it's like punctuation.
Oh, no, I
But-
agree. It's great. Unfortunately, just, again,
Let's put my hands up here.
You just, like...
I guess I'd say, yeah, if you build it, they will come. And like it does feel like, you know, we're investing and contributing a lot and getting a little bit and a little bit. And there, it feels worthwhile to continue investing in the sense that there you can feel like something is growing and there's a momentum that grows, even if it takes some time, right? And it can take quite a bit of time. So I don't know any kind of number, but yeah, I do feel like there's a momentum growing in any case. And I like Michael's answer as well.
Yeah, so do I. As opposed to giving an exact number, because again, like when I think I gave an exact number in my text answer, and that number's gone up since then. So
see?
again, like
There you go.
Oh, cool.
More every day.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, we certainly have our goals, but those are private. Okay, so what's going to surprise people about the show? Who in the show is most like their character? Sean, do you want to start?
Sure. What is going to surprise people most about the show would be, I mean, maybe some of the twists and stuff, or maybe the changing relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's definitely some twists that people that just like haven't been revealed in the trailer. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the thing too. Is like I've dealt with a few comments about like you give away so much in the trailer,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Nope.
well, no, we really don't. It's been carefully calculated what it is that we're showing, and it's not like it's a huge reveal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to whoever submitted this question, but we can't exactly tell you, or that's not a surprise.
This is true. I mean, this is a really good way to like sort of
But
try to get information out of us like a surprise. Well, the thing that's going to surprise people the most is this one thing where
yeah.
but who's most like their character? So,
Maybe Lisa?
do you think so?
I mean, I don't really know, but Lisa and Cassidy are the least.
Are you talking about Emma?
So yeah, Lisa and Emma, their characters, Cassidy and Serena, are the most. I don't know if I want to say rounded or normal-ish. I don't know, because like Alex, in my own case, for example, he feels, and I'd like to see him develop all different sides in that, but a little angry. And I definitely have my angry side, but I don't know. I haven't seen him smile thus far. So I feel like it's Cassidy and Serena. Cassidy, I'll say Cassidy.
Okay. Again, I
don't
know.
know.
I don't know Emma well enough to sort of be able to say that about her.
Yeah.
I don't think she's really like her character. I was gonna say kind of like no one is like their character just because
Right,
they are
yeah.
like so
And
different.
that can be interesting too, both as a viewer and as an actor.
Totally.
Like playing someone quite unlike yourself is always fun for me. I'll tell someone something, like if I'm playing like a bad guy or something, and people will be like, "Oh, I don't really see you as a villain," and it's like, "Well, that's good, I guess, for me socially, but watch the movie so you see."
I find personally, I find like the funnier the actor or such, or the further removed they are from something like that, the better the villain that they tend to play.
Yeah, because it is a trade, and people forget that it is a craft. So the people we play on screen can be different than who we are.
And
the villain can be creepy if the face and the persona don't seem scary in themselves, but that the actor can pull something scary out of themselves, and that gets delivered in a package that doesn't seem to align with it, so it jars people.
Yeah.
I get a little worried when I feel like I'm getting cast a few times in a row in some sort of psycho weird role, because I'm like, is this how people see me or something like that?
Yeah.
No, it's just you play it so well. Like, the thing that got you cast with Alex was when you did that one read between the scene between you and Serena, and you were so angry during it, and it was fantastic. But it was so convincing that I was worried that, like, when I met you in person, are you going to be that angry? Like, are you, like, is that how, like, so serious? And then, like, you're nothing like that audition, but it was so great.
Nice,
And
thank you. I have a couple
lasting
characters coming up where, like, I'm racist or abusive boyfriend, and I also have a character where I'm like a nice, shining, happy guy. So I'm like, okay, at least that evens it out a little bit.
But playing like psychos and evil people is so much fun, I would think.
For sure, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not saying don't do it. I just don't want to necessarily do it all day, every day. Play racist characters and get myself into racist mental states and stuff like that.
I imagine that would have to like wear on you after a while.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
Next one.
Anything to add to that?
Not so much. I think we sort of answered this question by inverting it. Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, my answer is essentially what the same in the text one, is that no one's really liked their character.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead and read the next one.
What marketing strategy are you trying to promote the series, and how's it coming along so far?
Word of mouth.
Yeah,
we sort of already addressed this one, but
Yeah.
so word of mouth is the really, really big thing that we're doing. And just sort of trying to spread things organically.
Yeah. Yeah, we did touch on this already, so I don't know how much more we have to elaborate, but yeah.
Sean, do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, word of mouth, but I mean, we also have, as Michael mentioned earlier, like content on the internet, and obviously these podcasts and stuff. And you, Rain, seem to have done quite a lot of work in terms of funding sources and maybe grants and things, whatever the IPF thing is. Is this related to the IPF thing, what we're doing right now?
What we're doing, well, it's more related to marketing.
Okay.
It's just one more thing to provide content. It's something to sort of get people's interest. So what we're doing right now is essentially marketing.
Right.
Cool.
But I mean, to be fair, like all our live streams are marketing. Like everything we do is technically marketing, because we're just promoting the series through different channels.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one will be a fun one. When you have a 5-minute break during rehearsal, what do cast spend their time doing?
Can we answer it for each other? Try to stay with the, from a third person perspective?
Sure, go for it.
And even as I say that, well, can someone else answer for me or someone else?
I can answer for you, if you want.
Okay, go for it.
You spend time on your cell phone.
What? Okay.
No. It's not a bad thing. It was just like all I'm doing is observing what I saw in the hotel room, where there was a lot of waiting.
Sure.
But I think that's
well, and I wasn't drifting through social media. I was like doing work, checking emails, coordinating.
Okay. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like, I didn't know. That's why I used a broad term of on your cell phone, because I don't know what you were doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping you were gonna say working out.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that day. But I mean, to be fair, you weren't supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, even if it's like push-ups against the wall or something.
I didn't see that though, because the only time I really saw you when I wasn't like, because I was busy doing things, so it's a little unfair of me to answer that, except for the one day where we were in the hotel room, and that's when I saw you doing stuff, but there wasn't a spot for you to work out.
Yeah.
So
No,
Michael
that's
maybe
true.
should have taken this one. Maybe we shouldn't be answering for each other.
Yeah.
Although it did create a fun conversation, and I kind of want to see what both of you say about things.
About what?
So I'm kind of curious. We're answering for each other, so we'll include me into the break as well, so that someone can answer for me, and then we can justify.
I don't know if I saw you take a 5-minute break for that whole week.
Sean, did you?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I think you were working pretty hard,
Yeah.
coordinating and talking to different people and taking care of one issue or another. And, but in a pretty chill's way. And so it didn't seem necessarily like you were killing yourself. It didn't seem like it.
Yeah.
But, like, because you'd come into where we were hanging out and then just address the question of costumes or approve the makeup or what. Hopefully have a moment to relax within that, hopefully.
There were moments there where, like, when I did come out to the green room, and I didn't really necessarily... I was asking questions, but they weren't for approval. They were just kind of like, is everything okay? Like, that was my 5-minute break.
Right.
Sure.
Was me going and making sure that everything was okay.
Yeah.
So, although there was that moment, like, during lunch on our first day, when, like, I felt lost because I wasn't really doing anything. I was trying to take a moment to relax.
Oh, I see.
Which I don't do.
Okay, yeah.
And that was when I went and grabbed the cake, and I'm just like, you know what? Now's a good time for cake.
Yeah.
That cake
So
guy.
you found something to do even in that moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had the cake sitting there. I didn't know when we were going to have time to do it. And, like, everyone was just in one room together. So I'm like, let's just do it now.
Makes sense.
And then
I'd say Rory and Steph and a few of them were watching these meme videos or whatever. Like, Rory seemed to intent on entertaining everyone.
I noticed,
Yeah.
which is good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
mostly.
Well, it's good, and it's like you want to balance, right? You don't want to push things too far where it becomes like it takes away from the drive of what we're actually supposed to be there doing.
Right.
Oh, for sure. We did have that little issue on day 2 when we were waiting, and I think you were there, and I think we were waiting for you, Sean. And
Oh, yeah.
when you went to the wrong location.
Right.
And Rory was showing a video.
It was.
So-
I recall it was a super cut of Nicolas Cage screaming or something like that.
It was. And it was funny, but then we also had to work.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
we need to get you into makeup. So
Right.
it's just kind of a matter of, like, we just need to balance that out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it was great to sort of kill a little bit of time, but
Right.
again, it was just striking that balance between the two.
Yeah.
And again, I don't cope well when when we're on set and there's nothing to do, because everything's taken care of. Which, I mean, in theory, it means everyone's been doing their job really great, but it also means there isn't as much for me to do. And that's the other thing I found too with working with larger crews, is just everyone kind of has their job, does it, and there's a little less for me to do, as opposed to
Right,
like
sure.
running around and doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have a larger crew that you like trust.
Yes, and
You
that
know,
was. And so it's a different experience. Like, I'm used to working on like really small sets with like maybe 5 or 6 people, and I got to do like 3 or 4 people's jobs. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I think this was completely off topic, but this was probably one of the larger crews that I've worked with. Not the largest, but definitely one of the larger ones on like a narrative project.
Right.
And then there's Michael, I guess, off giving speeches and stuff like that. He's always got speeches. No, I'm joking. I guess learning lines for his next project.
Pretty much. There was so
He's
much.
got so much going on.
There was a lot happening that week that I feel like I don't even remember having a lot of downtime. I know that I took breaks and stuff, but usually on a set, I'm like really taking downtime between shots, like reading and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, there was a lot happening that I just spent a lot of my downtime being like, okay, I guess I should learn these lines for this and figure out how I'm gonna get from here to there and figure out what, yeah.
Yeah, figuring out commuting, that's one too. Yeah, like even I remember on our other set that we did together, As Above, So Below thing.
Yeah.
You had to run off to the TIFF.
Yeah.
So it was, but it's normal. It's
Yeah.
balancing schedules.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a big thing to do on 5-minute breaks.
Yeah.
The work never ever ends, even on breaks.
It's funny because if you've got like a 5-minute break in filming, sometimes I'll just send off like a million texts to people that I have to talk to about things, and then I'll just shut my phone off. And I'll be like, talk to you again in another 6 hours. And then just fire it. Do all of your communication in short 5-minute bursts throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, usually you have to wait for people to respond anyway.
Yeah.
So at least this way you have all of your communication.
Yeah.
You don't have to really wait.
Totally.
All right, so what kind of person is going to love this series and the characters? Either of you care to answer that?
Yeah, I think, well, people who can maybe relate. I think intelligent people, because there is, like, some more complicated stuff going on, but also maybe emotionally intelligent in the sense that who are up for thinking about some of the issues that get dealt with in a bit of a serious manner. People who I can even think of certain comic books. I mean, like Persepolis or I don't know, ones that young adult, but that are a little more serious, a little more goth, a little bit of humor in there, but definitely addressing more serious issues. And I think LGBT niche.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in the show that are being discussed about, maybe not for the first time, but maybe a little bit more widely or being approached a different way, that I feel like relatability is going to be a big thing.
Yeah, and the way I kind of phrased it when I answered it in the text version was not so much as who's going to love the series, but more who's going to connect with the series.
Right.
And I think that's going to, I don't know, I think love is a really strong word, but I do think that connect is more of an accurate term or accurate word to use. And it's people who can relate to these kind of characters who have gone through similar struggles of not having direction in life or suffering from mental illness.
Yeah.
Or people who are in LGBT or LGBTQ community or anyone who's been sort of marginalized, that sort of thing.
Right.
I think that kind of audience is going to really enjoy the show. And yes, there needs to be some sort of emotional intelligence. And, as intellectual intelligence helps as well to sort of enjoy the show to its full.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Cool. Where will you be shooting most of the series?
Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Say, anyone have anything else to add to that?
We're pretty well all in the city?
Pretty much. That and Hamilton.
Okay.
Depending, I guess, on budget. Oh, wait, Aurora.
We're looking at something in Etobicoke with a larger house.
Oh, what do you mean versus Aurora?
Yes.
Ouch.
Your place is certainly an option. It's one of two. We need to look at another location.
That's cool.
To take a look.
Cool.
Sweet.
But if we need your house, it's good to know that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a distance.
It's not even the distance either. It's just a matter of when we were there, it was great. It was really, really good. But there's also a matter of noise and just there's the distance between various sets. Mm-hmm. So the kitchen and people hung out, so we had to be constantly yelling, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we have a larger sort of location.
Okay, yeah.
So, again, it's just sort of, it's a matter of budget as well.
Right.
So, if we can afford this other place, great. It's really, really beautiful. I'll have to send you pictures at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's budget.
Yep. Sweet.
I feel, as soon as you said ouch, I know you're joking, but I feel bad.
No
Way
worries.
to make me feel bad on the camera.
All right. Moving on.
Yep.
Who came up with the name of the series Scars, and what's the thought behind the title?
Michael, do you want to take this one?
Yes, I did not come up with the title. But I think the thought behind the title is scars, both physical and emotional. They can affect people in different ways, and they can be visible in different ways, I suppose.
Sean, thoughts?
Yeah, no, sounds about right. Yeah, mental scars even, and it says at some point it has a subtitle, "The Marks We Leave" or what have you. So the idea that what's happened before, the consequences of what's come before, and playing all that out,
Yeah.
and seeing how it manifests and is felt by the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I came up with the title. Surprise, surprise. No one could have guessed. And yeah, I mean, the thought behind the title, you guys pretty much kind of got it. So initially, it started off as a webcomic, and it was titled "Don't Let Go," and it was basically about Kyle and Alex, and no one else. And then over time, it changed, and it went to a different medium, and the name changed. But again, it became a matter of like, it was exactly that. Like, it's the show become like, what is it about? It is about sort of, the marks that we leave on other people's lives, essentially scars that we leave on other people's lives, both good and bad.
Okay.
Because we all affect ourselves. We all affect each other differently. And when you come across someone's life, when you come across into someone's life, even if it's briefly, you have an impact on them. Good or bad, subtle or not so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you leave that mark that doesn't ever really go away.
So it's principally from people to people, as opposed to like an event that's left
Yes.
marks.
Which is the whole marks, which is where the marks we leave came from.
Right.
Okay.
Which is the title of the final episode of the series. You heard it here first, folks. Okay, so the next one is, who's the funniest among all the actors and who's the most serious one? Sean, Michael?
Just actors.
Yeah, just actors in this. But we can expand it to crew as well.
Funniest, that maybe Sarah or Michael.
Okay.
Sarah's the most outgoing and volubile. Like, she has occasion to talk.
It's true.
I think I don't know. Maybe I'm more quiet. I don't know. What do you think?
There's a pretty good repartee happening on set most of the time. If people are in a jokey mood, I feel like most people are. Mm-hmm. And then when it's time to work, there's not like a class clown or anything. Like, I think we're all on a pretty even playing field.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everyone just kind of plays off each other in their energy.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what you said. When someone's kind of in a jokey mood, everyone's in that sort of headspace.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's contagious. And when someone is serious, everyone's really serious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Except when Pablo's on set.
Yeah, that's
Pablo
true.
just stresses us all out. What a friggin' junkie. Just gets high on set.
Yeah, do you want to explain the Pablo thing for people who don't know?
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
Pablo is one of our PAs, and no. So our art director has this panda that appears on all these different movies and shorts and whatnot, all these different projects, and so he made an appearance on our set on Violet's bed, and so he was there for all of our first day, and one of the scenes that we shot was like in a den area, and there was like drugs sitting on the table. So we ended up doing this little mini photo shoot where Pablo was getting high. He had like a needle injected into his arm and just sort of sticking out, and he was just passed out. For anyone who's interested in seeing his journey, it's one of the we have a book called Pablo's Big Day, and it's one of the rewards on one of the perks on Patreon. There is a tier just for that. So for a mere $15, all you have to do is 1 month, $15, and you'll get the book. And then you can go and you can switch out you can switch it out to a higher or lower tier if you want, or keep it the same tier. It's cool too. You'll get the rewards of the $15 perk. But yeah, if you're interested in that, you can get that through Patreon.
Nice.
And it's his whole story of his big day on set.
I was gonna say Adam who played the guy I wake up with in bed there.
Yeah.
He and I had actually done an evening of improv the previous evening, and not only did he save me a couple times because I wasn't that great. I mean, I was good, whatever. All of them were like very encouraging afterwards, but it's not necessarily my forte, improv for comedy. But I can ad lib a scene like perfect. But yeah, improving for comedy in this context, and they were a troupe kind of thing. But anyways, he was great, and so yeah, he's quite a funny guy as well. Definitely a cool character, and it was fun to have done the improv with him and to have developed that sort of confidence together, and then to have done the scene together. So I think you guys are right in the sense that we can play the moments to get to know each other, to be easygoing with each other and happy and fun. And then when we get down to it, we can get into the seriousness. And I mean, I think almost every take we did of myself and Adam's scene, where I'm like yelling at him and extremely angry at him and whipping a shirt at him and all, immediately after we were like, not necessarily breaking out in laughter, but like the tension lightened immediately after cut.
No, I noticed that really helped too, just because it was such a rough scene.
Yeah.
And when we shoot the real version of that scene, that'll be really helpful to have that, just because it is a more intense version of that, and it's a little bit rougher than what was in the trailer. So
Nice.
yeah, I think that sort of helps, and it's always nice to have people who who have that repertoire with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. So yeah, who's the funniest? Who's most serious? I think we covered that pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. So what 2 questions would you ask to get the most information about who a person truly is?
Oh, interestingly enough, I was just reading something about this, about how it's a better I'm going to butcher this for sure, but it was something about how it's a better icebreaker to ask someone how they're doing rather than what they do for a living or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it'll give you insight definitely into their character. If they say they're doing good, you'll know if they're doing good or not.
But also that can be interpreted too as just like your standard sort of, how are you? And then you answer like, fine, because that's what's expected of you.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I ask that question of someone, I'm looking for a legit answer, not just simply, oh, I'm fine. It's like, no, when I ask, I actually want to know, how are you doing?
Yeah.
So when I left you guys today, I had CBC on as I usually do, and it almost seemed like they were going to talk about, I forget what it was now, but what we were all talking about, the technology thing, and we're like, yeah, we should look that up. It was almost that, but it came around to this thing, which was basically they are doing research to analyze not only the way people type their textos and stuff like that, but how they type them over time, and to be able to tell how the person is feeling, and to be able to identify a variety of mental health issues. But notably, they mentioned depression and stuff like that. So if you're analyzing the way people using their cell phone, texting or whatever, you can see that they can identify when the person is feeling a little more depressed and stuff like that. They can identify emotional states and mental health states from the way people use their cell phones.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that kind of goes like, I don't know, when you say that, I sort of think of in poker when someone has a tell. And so they have like a certain action that they do that sort of reveals where their mind's at. Like, is there good cards, bad cards? Are they happy? Are they upset? These different little cues that are given away. So that kind of makes me think of that with the cell phone. Just on a much more sort of...
nuanced.
Yeah, and a much, like, with more information, kind of.
Right. Well, that's a big part of it. Yeah, it's a huge amount of data.
Cool.
All right.
And they're thinking about it with teenagers particularly.
Yeah, because they're like always... Well, teenagers tend to use phones more than... I don't know. I can't say that. I mean, I want to say they use it more than other people, but I think it just depends on what you're doing. And what
and they're good at phones. They get it really easily, and and they can type away and use social media like crazy. But also, there's the aspect that teenagers, mental health is a question for teenagers.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a question for everyone, of course, but yeah. So, anyways.
That's actually, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Um, so, again, what 2 questions would you ask, Michael?
So for sure, one would be like, how are you doing? Something as simplistic as that. It gives a lot of insight if that's specifically what you want to know. Get information out of people as to what type of person they are. The other one, what 2 questions would you ask to get the most information about who a person truly is?
I guess like, what's your favorite movie or something like that? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
like, because those are barometers of where someone's at, right?
Yeah, totally.
Um, yeah, so again, I guess it depends on what you're trying to get, but if you're looking for information about who a person truly is, for me, I went to a less practical route, and
Yeah.
I went to a little bit more of a creative place in that. No,
Yeah.
creative, not necessarily. Different place, different take on it. And for me, it was one of the first ones I thought of was like, what 5 items could you not live without? Which is, funny enough, a question on OkCupid. And so it tends to be on dating site things, but it just it tells you sort of what they're, what's important to them.
Right.
I think that's a really, really big one.
Like, what would you bring on a desert island type thing?
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. Like, what could you not live without?
Right.
That sort of thing. What was my other one? The other one was who is most important to you. So
that's a good one.
from a people point of view,
Yeah.
who's most important to you. So is it like friend? Is it a friend? Is it a family member?
Yeah.
Is it your pet? Yeah, I think that sort of places a lot of value on, again, like what you value and who you value and like the group. So like if it's not a family member, then your family might kind of be a crappy family. I could probably, accurately sort of pick that out about you, assess that. Yeah.
Yeah, you approach this question very logically, which I appreciate. Okay. Keep going?
Yep.
Okay. In the past, people were buried with the items they would need in the afterlife. What would you want to be buried with so you could use it in the afterlife?
A shotgun.
The zombie apocalypse? I would say a comb, because even if I'm dead, I'm not having a bad hair day. Oh.
That's great. Sean?
I guess I would say some things that I'd really like to in life, like maybe a Batman comic book, and like, I mean, across my life, like as a young person, but then also as an older person, and it's true though that I don't really connect these days to objects. So honestly, the Earth. I really do just want to go to complete connection with the Earth and not really have anything left behind. But so I guess I'll say Batman comic book, because that'll deteriorate too. We did a time capsule way back in the day at one point, and I put in a Cracked magazine.
Oh.
Because I really liked Cracked. And of course, when we came back even a year later, oh wait, I think I mentioned it a year later to my friends. Hey, yeah, we should go dig that thing up we put in. And they were like, oh, we dug it up. My thing was gone. Yours was completely disappeared, and etc. It wasn't that big a deal. But my magazine that I'd put in, had completely deteriorated. So it was like,
really?
So yeah. Sort of it's not really along the lines of the point of the whole excursion, right? But I feel like it is.
Yeah.
Sort of like that.
Yeah,
no, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's a similar kind of thing for me. I'm not a materialistic person. I wouldn't want to be buried with anything at all. So, if someone did bury me with something, I guess that's your call. Maybe don't bury me with a person who's alive or an animal that's alive. That would just kind of be my request. I think that should be like on my tombstone, just as like the little bit.
Don't touch me.
Sure. It's more like, don't bury me with something that's alive.
Fair.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, that got weird.
Yes. But those are the best questions, are the ones that get weird.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is, if you could switch to movie characters, What switch would lead to the most inappropriate movies?
You had a funny one?
I did. So mine was Mrs. Doubtfire and Freddy Krueger. That would be such a weird. Both of those movies would just not be the same. It'd be so weird. Yours was good too.
I said Stormy Daniels and Anyone makes an entirely new movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the movies she makes, or like the current controversy?
A bit of both. Just seeing her in a movie. Seeing her in a movie would be weird.
And having any other character in one of hers would just be so weird. I almost want to be like, like Woody from Toy Story. And her, and just swap, and it's just. I think that would make for both really inappropriate movies. One of them would just be confusing, and the other one would be really inappropriate.
I saw this. This is gonna ruin so many childhoods, but I saw this meme once that was like, I bet Andy's mom also has toys named Woody and Buzz.
Actually, one time my friend and I were we were preparing to go into Toy Story 2 in the parking lot of the cinema, and at one point I'm like, "Hey, we're going to see Toy Story, and I got a Woody and a Buzz."
That's good. That's clever.
That is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. They had to see that coming, the creators. But what was I gonna say? Hey, you made me think of something, but I forgot. Oh, well, yeah. There's a show in Quebec. There's a show called Passepartout, which is basically the Quebec version. It's very different, but it's the same idea as Polka Dot Door.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a kids show, like a whole generation of, like our generation of young people in Quebec grew up watching this show. And like, for example, at the end, the girl Passepartout, she's like, represents the kid in the family idea. And she would speak to the screen every end of every episode and be like, sometimes I feel scared and I don't know what I'm going to do and stuff. She would have like a tender moment. And they did a interview with the woman today in a bar on this show called Franc Tireur. And at the end of the interview, she did a moment like that. And like everyone in the bar was crying.
Oh, Sean, you cut out.
No? Okay.
Although she's got a sexiness, and there's a sequence where she says a song that's basically like, "Tell me, Mr. Cat, where is Madame Cat?" But Madame Cat is Madame Pussy, and she's like in a skin tight outfit and getting sprayed by a hose and like licking herself as she's saying Madame Cat. So it's already got some weird levels on it, but there's this sequence where she's got a box and there's something in the box and she can't see it, and she's asking the kids, the audience that aren't there, like, can you wash a dog with it, or can you cook with it? Can you eat it? She's asking them questions, and she'll be like, yes. Oh, you can eat with it? She's asking them questions to find out what's in the box.
Yeah.
And someone has made a video on YouTube where it's a vibrator in the box, and she's asking questions like, can you put it in your mouth? Yes. Oh, okay. So if you can put it in your mouth, you must be able to eat it, right? You can eat it? No. You can put it in your mouth, but you can't eat it? That's weird. Wait a minute. I know what it is. And then it cuts to all the sequences in the whole show where it's like sexual and weird. Because it must have been a toothbrush, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of that you can put in your mouth and not eat, other than a vibrator or whatever the thing was. A dildo.
Okay.
Let me see. Oh, but finally, there's an adult comedy show called Rock et Belles Oreilles, which is like Air Farce or something like that. And they have a sequence where they introduce a new character into it called Oncle George, or Uncle George. And he's a marionette, because there's sequences in it of marionette puppets. And he's just really wrong. Like I forget entirely, but I mean, he's sexual and it's weird and it's very wrong. And I can't even necessarily recall any very specific examples, but as I recall, it gets really, really wrong. And these are like the marionettes that kids grew up with and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Weird.
That's
similar idea, like as if you had, well, like you just said, Woody in a, no, I don't want to think about Woody in a porn movie at all.
so. Then, what two characters would you swap?
Well, I was gonna say maybe something along the lines of like Weekend at Bernie's, but maybe someone different as Bernie. Might be interesting if it
fun.
was like Terminator in Weekend at Bernie's. Like he's deactivated, but they have to pretend he's still alive. The Terminator, but I mean he's ridiculously heavy. It's really difficult to hold up the heavy ass Terminator.
I feel like this needs to be something that's made, and we'll call it Terminator at Bernie's.
Yeah. That could definitely happen. I mean, John was so upset at the end of Terminator 2 about losing him. I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go. And all that. John, I know now why you cry. All that stuff. And in a Cracked magazine, he actually says, we took out his chip and replaced it with Durst Energizer batteries. Yeah. Now he keeps going and going.
There was this funny SNL sketch a couple years ago where it was a parody of Weekend at Bernie's, and they had Robert De Niro playing like the Bernie character. And they have like the two guys, and it's like very like 80s, and they're just like sitting around and they're like just hamming it up, and they're like, yeah, so we pretend that he's alive and we take him to this party, blah blah blah. And then they show up to the party, and in 2 seconds the first house guest is like, why do you have a dead guy with you? And everyone just starts freaking out about what psychos they are, and they get arrested and stuff.
If anyone's wondering what I'm looking at as I'm sort of looking around the room, my cat has decided to come join us.
Yeah.
And she's rubbing herself up against everything.
Wow.
So I'm just making sure she doesn't like unplug a cable or knock over the camera or a light.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
When you think about it, the acting that Bernie did in that movie, actually, I never even really realized that as a kid. But I mean, it's a guy who's alive, who's pretending to be dead for the entirety of an entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Nice. Okay, yep, next.
Some people believe that if life has no purpose, then there is no reason for living, while others think that if life has no purpose, that frees a person to find, create, and follow their own personal purpose. Which do you believe is a more valid point of view, or are they both equally valid?
Wow, this got serious really quick.
Yeah.
Sean, do you want to start?
So the question is, which do you believe is more valid, or are they equally valid? I guess I'd say, well, it sort of reminds me of the thought I've had where, you could think that humans are not, because we're not the center of the earth, or I mean the universe, and we're not like the most important thing in the universe. Indeed, we're just a grain of sand on the beach of the universe. That could diminish our importance, but I rather tend to think of it as, wow, we're part of this entire ass universe, and we're on that beach as a grain of sand, sure, but I mean, every grain of sand is a part of the entirety of the amazing universe, and isn't it incredible that we're able to be that? It's a miracle that we're a part of this entirety, and that it's an entirety, and that it's so big and everything. I mean, it'd be almost more boring if we were just the biggest thing and the best thing in the universe, and that's it. So I would lean towards the second one.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't hold it against anyone if they felt like, oh no, I have to have a purpose in life.
Yeah. I largely agree with what you're saying. I'm misattributing a lot of quotes today, but there was some quote I read once that like really stuck with me, and it was something along the lines of how life is not a problem to solve, but it's a mystery to explore. So if you go throughout your entire life trying to figure out like why, you're gonna miss out. Like I like the way this person has phrased this, actually, that I think if you stop thinking about why you're here, what we're doing here, and just make your time here count, it can be a lot more freeing of an existence.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So for me, like the way I look at it, it depends on where my brain is currently. If I'm not in the greatest of places, I tend to drift more towards if life has no purpose, then there's no reason for living, there's no reason to exist, blah, blah, blah. But I largely agree with the whole thing of like, if life has no purpose, it just sort of frees us up to, do what we want. I'm not a big believer in destiny or anything like that. So, and I find that actually really freeing. I know there's some people who sort of, they need to have knowing that like there's a bigger purpose for me in life, and I'm working towards whatever that grander purpose is. That's great, I guess, if that's what keeps you going. But again, I like the whole idea of like life is something to sort of be explored. For me, the fact that we exist on this planet is, I don't necessarily like using the word miracle. I like the word accident. It's just the fact that we exist is just, our planet is weird in that of all the planets, it's just sort of randomly has life, just totally by accident, and that whole evolving thing. So, there isn't necessarily a purpose other than to exist and explore the rest of the planet and our own limitations, and sort of, especially explore our own limitations and pushing ourselves. I think pushing ourselves is a really big part of that. But I think the second one is a little bit more of a valid point of view. It's certainly a more optimistic point of view of the two. Because I think that was the actual question, was which one was valid, not what do I think purpose of life is. Anyways.
Right.
To go back to the question, I believe the second one is definitely a more positive spin on it and is more valid. I guess they're kind of equally as much so. It just depends on your current frame of mind. But again, I prefer the second one personally.
Yeah.
Okay, in your opinion, can human nature be changed, and should it be changed?
Could I just ask where we're at in the list?
Yep, this is the second last question.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Almost there.
Can human nature be changed? Yes, I've always actually kind of been a bit fascinated by this, because occasionally I'll be going through my life and I'll meet someone who I think is a major dick. And I'll always wonder why they act like that, what they're compensating for. There's a very popular, time-proven theory that bullies mostly come from a place where they've been bullied themselves throughout time for whatever reason. So I'm always fascinated when I meet someone that I don't necessarily get along with as to why they're like that. And I think that human nature can change for better or for worse. So I feel like it should be changed for better. I feel like if we were all willing to just talk about our issues a little bit more, level the field a bit, we would all find that we have much more in common than we may think.
You remind me of someone I know. Anyways, go on.
I think that human nature can be changed, and it all really just has to do with outlook. I shouldn't say all, but a lot of it has to do with like outlook and perspective and the way someone's brought up. But through conversation, I believe that we can affect serious change in how we choose to live our lives. Yeah, I think so.
Sean?
I would definitely agree with that. And I think it will change necessarily over time in relation to external environmental factors and stuff. But I'm talking like on a geological scale. Necessarily everything changes and evolves over hundreds of thousands of years or what have you. Nevertheless, there is certain fundamental things that are not unchangeable, but remain over geologic time, through time, and have evolutionary purposes, but are changing even today, right? But like flip the need to survive, or there's this discussion of like a selfish gene or what, and I don't necessarily think that that's clear cut, but the idea of the need for self-preservation kind of thing, and the manifestations that has, even in terms of racism and all those kinds of things, are to a large degree in human nature. Of course, can change and continue and will change and continue to change over time. but like in a geological scale, I think so. So they can seem to not be changing in our immediate experience, just like it doesn't seem like climate change is necessarily happening, because you can be like, see, look how much snow there was this winter. But on a larger scale, of course, it's definitely changing.
All right.
I'll go with that.
For me, I approach this differently. That seems to be the case with a lot of these questions.
Yeah.
So with human nature, I sort of looked at that as what is our natural state like? Because I think I think we all kind of have this sort of natural state about us that like if no one interfered with that whole nurture component, there's just a certain way that we all kind of are, and it has to do with brain wiring and all that kind of stuff. And then we're also shaped by our experiences, and that's sort of more into the sort of nurture part.
Yeah.
So I think that human nature itself, as like our natural state, can't be changed because that's just like our core.
Yeah.
So like if you're just a naturally inquisitive person, that can't be changed.
Right.
But that can certainly affect the nurture component to things. I answered this in a little bit more detail on the in the text version.
Cool.
But yeah, it's essentially no, human nature can't be changed. In some case, it should be changed because sometimes people are just naturally awful people.
Yeah.
And just necessarily not awful. I shouldn't say that. But they just have bad instincts.
That's what. Yeah. I kind of agree with you there. Like, that's why I was saying I'm more fascinated by this than saying I know the answer to this, because it's like sometimes you can trace it and sometimes you can't, I guess.
It's interesting when you can't. But yeah, I mean, like, instead of approaching it like, oh, well, you're a terrible person, I don't like you, that closes the door to any sort of discussion.
Exactly. Yes.
I like the idea of, again, the whole communication thing that you were bringing up.
Yeah.
That like we can solve a lot of our problems just by friggin' talking to each other.
Yeah. Like
communication is so important.
Yeah.
And if we just took a little bit of time to understand where we're all coming from, and looking at something like hatred, that's a learned behavior. That's not a natural. Hatred is not natural.
Yeah.
It's something that's taught. So understanding why someone hates certain people in that group, there's always a reason behind it, even if it's like religion.
Yeah.
So many of the world's problems would be solved without religion, but that's a whole other discussion. All right. Anyone else have anything to add to that one?
That's great.
Okay. Last question. Just before I get there, though, I wanted to address a comment. So to the question before that, saying it's an accident presupposes that there was an ultimate goal that was subverted. This is back to my comment about about life having purpose and us being sort of an accident. My phrasing of that might have been off, I guess. When I say accident, I mean we weren't necessarily supposed to exist because it was essentially like the Big Bang just sort of being rocks. On all the planets just kind of being rocks the way they are, and then we just happened to exist. Life just happened to exist on that planet, on that one little planet, and something was different. That's what I meant by accident. Not that there was so much a goal, but just the norm was somehow subverted. So that's what I meant by that, just to clear that up. So last question. In your series, is your series suitable for a family audience? If not, what is the age group what age group are you targeting?
Okay. Well, I would say probably not in the sense that you're thinking a family audience. I don't think this show would be appropriate for young children. But it will be interesting to see who is drawn to this series. Most of the sort of literature about this series, I think we talk about how this is mostly a show for people in their 20s and 30s-ish, because that's how old the characters are. But it'll be interesting to see if teenagers relate to the show. I feel like a lot of them will, because they're usually leading the tide when it comes to a lot of these social trends and stuff. And it's a very relatable show, so hopefully we're hoping that older audiences, I guess, will relate to a lot of the themes in the show, or wish they had something like that when they were coming up, when they were this age.
And at least maybe find some sort of connection to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sean, your thoughts?
maybe just add that, it's true. That's all true. And maybe though, I mean, it is stuff that families should, in an ideal world, talk about, right? I mean, if there's a young person in a family that does feel like they find themselves in the identities being discussed in the show, then it ideally would be something that they could watch with their parents or what have you.
Yeah.
Even if it's only, and they don't necessarily say, look, this is me, but they say like, can you watch this show with me? And they're able to suss out a little where their parents are at, and their parents are able to, they don't have to necessarily breach it cold, but can be brought into it or anyways exposed to it through the show. So I think it would be positive if families watched it together.
That's an interesting take on it that I hadn't really thought of.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, I don't think like children should necessarily watch it. I think but it's interesting that bringing up like watching it with your parents. I do think it would be an excellent sort of gauge to sort of figure out where your parents are for sure, especially if you're connecting with these, and maybe a younger audience could connect with it too.
Yeah.
So I mean that's definitely interesting. I think content-wise, not so much. Just because again, like it does get pretty heavy and it does touch on some dark stuff.
Right.
Right, that's exactly, to be like picking their moments, maybe like a young person who has been enjoying it, maybe even in secrecy, could like pick an episode to show or something like that.
It's 18 plus, so if you're a cool teen, watch the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's generally targeted for like 18 plus.
Well, our ratings will obviously interest young people.
Oh yeah.
I know we always wanted to watch the R-rated movies.
Yeah.
So I mean, having that rating, it's like, yeah, okay, we're 18 plus, but if you're 13, go watch it to be cool. But yeah, anyone else have anything to add to anything in general?
You're good with that.
No.
Okay, we got through this in actually pretty good timing.
Cool.
Yeah, so that concludes the list of questions.
Thank you to everyone who submitted a question.
Absolutely, thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. Thanks for checking out that IPF trailer.
And if you haven't checked it already, go check it out again. Or go check it out. If you've already checked it out, check it out again. There's also the extended trailer on there as well. And there's also a video up that just came out last week. And it's, if you're interested in sort of the editing component, it was how we achieved the Riley and Kyle effect with the same actor playing both roles. So it was essentially how that was all composited during post. And I talked a little bit about what went into the actual shooting of that as well. Also, starting on Thursday of this week, the scenes are going to be released one by one. There's a total of 5, and those will be released every 2 days or so. If you're a Patreon or Kickstarter supporter, you'll get those a day early. Also, as of today, we've opened up the Discord server to the public. There's still the area for Patreon and backers in general. But the Discord server is open and public. I'll post the link in the description. And that is about it. Also, there is our Patreon as well. There's a link in the description. Feel free to go check that out, check out the rewards, and maybe contribute if you feel inclined to do so. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us as well, Sean.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And stick around to the end of the video to see the names of all of our backers. Have a great night. Hey there, I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for taking the time to watch these videos. It really means a lot to us. To everyone who has or currently is supporting us financially, thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to all of us. I have some names to read out. I apologize in advance if I butcher it. Kai, Andreas Nelsmuller, Milani Hernandez, Colin Weatherby, Primal Screens Media, John Freewan, Mark Grasdell, Heath Dobson, Allison Kingsley, and Nasha Zahariva. Thank you again.